Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here today with Andrew Hay from New Battle High. Andrew, today you're just down the road from me, but we're joining here on online. And Andrew's a teacher that I've been looking forward to meeting with. I think he's doing some amazing work at New Battle High. We're really excited and delighted. I know it's a busy time of the year, Andrew. And I know it's a Friday afternoon. I'm very honored that you've given up your time. But do you want to say hi and just do a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Andrew Hay. I'm the Principal Teacher of Technologies here at New Battle High School. And like to the conversation, I've been using AI now for a number of years with students. The first use with classes was 2021. So being in the Digital Centre of Excellence here, we would try and do new things or experimental things to push technology and learning forward as much as we can.
Brilliant, brilliant. So Andrew has chosen with the four questions, and we're going to try and keep this to about 10 or 15 minutes as a chat. And bells might ring, things might happen, and that's going to be part of the whole fun of the whole experience. So Andrew, one of the first questions that you chose was, how are you currently incorporating AI technologies into your classroom teaching? Big question, but I think you've got a great story here.
So there's quite a few different ways, and some of them I think is mainstream in the sense that there's others using it in the same ways. But I'll give some examples, and then there's some that are little bit more bespoke that we've ran as pilots in the school, which I think will probably be really interesting to some to hear. So for things like lesson planning, getting exemplars that can be used with the students. Creating questions or multiple choice questions to use in quizzes, and even as a use for pedagogy to support with ideas for lesson construction. The two main tools that I'm using is Microsoft's Copilot and Google Gemini, that used to be called Google Bard. And I've found between the two, it works really well to jump into one or the other. So the multiple choice questions, using that to then export and take into something like a Kahoot or a GymKit or a BlueKit. I found time-wise is really efficient to make it go quickly or to get a bank of questions. And the only difference is identifying, is there suitable questions? So I found as a teacher, there is a wee bit of quality control to check it, but for speeding up to create questions or to say, that's not quite right, can you make me a different question? It works really, really well. So that would be the first two tools that I'd highlight. The next one that I would use is the image creation tools. And this is thinking specifically for creativity lessons. So quite often we want examples of a product, and it's where mainstream products are obviously designed really well because it's got to the point of mass manufacture. But sometimes you want a product that's not designed as well that people can critique or analyze or identify the problems to then springboard and be creative and come up with new ideas. So it's where we've used a mix of Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and DALL-E with prompts of briefs for designs to get it to come up with a unique design that is not always perfect, but that's part of the rationale to then be able to create a piece of work that a pupil can use to analyze and critically evaluate to against design factors or specification points that can help them then consider alternative solutions rather than always looking at a perfectly designed product.
Yeah.
And then the last big tool that we've been using for quite some time is called Viscom. So Viscom AI is a tool that's about supporting the creative process. And it's designed for professionals and industry use, but we've been using it with students since 2021. And it's where a lot of staff, and when I've shared it with other design or creative thinking teachers, their worry is always this removes the whole process. But for us, thinking of the creative process, it's really during the inspiration and the ideation of coming up with the different idea stages that the AI is used to support the learner. So that tool is it's an image creation tool, but it's driven by a drawing going into it. So it can either be a paper done drawing that you take a photo of, or it can be a drawing done digitally that you input along with text. and you can even use images as a reference image for it then to connect all of that and output an image for you. So we found that is a really powerful tool for students that sometimes can't get an idea from their head out to paper, or it just doesn't quite do it justice. And there, when you get that learner that says that's not quite right or not quite what I want, but they're stumped of how to get it out, we find this is a really good tool to support with that step.
That's brilliant. I love that, Andrew. I love the bit where you're getting them, to look at something and critically evaluate it. I think that's fantastic. I don't know if you saw, I'm smiling at you, and with all of the stuff that you're saying. Amazing, really, really interesting. Okay, let's keep going. So the second question we have here, have you observed any specific ways in which AI aids students in developing their creative thinking skills?
So I think for that one, jumping back to the Viscom analogy, that's the AI tool I'd say that's supported the most with creative thinking. And it's where, on the face of it, people see it as you've got an image or it comes up with a product for you. So full stop, it's the end of the creative process. But what we've found with our learners consistently is it's a tool that they'll go to themselves undirected, and that's not with lots of training, just automatically. They're like, oh, I could use that. And they'll go to it, and they're using it for very iterative processes. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at it, and then they'll go back to their design brief or their specification, and they'll again, like you're saying about the DALL-E images are being critical, they'll be critical about what the AI's put back to them. And the tool lets you in-paint on it, so you can choose a bit of the creative solution that's came up with and say, well, I like this bit, but I don't like that bit. And then they can tweak and they can change it. So it's where we're starting to see a story, much like, I don't like the term old fashioned, but like a paper folio, where you'd see like page 1, 2, 3, and you'd see the idea tweak and change. Using Viscom, they've got a workbench so you can see every iteration and every step that they've done. And it's where for the students, we're seeing that story. And the difference is we're just seeing it digitally as opposed to being on a paper folio. And it's where you can get the pupil to articulate, well, I changed this because, or it's given me this idea. So you're seeing sometimes an offshoot, a tangent that they wouldn't have thought of before, but it's all based on the prompt that they're typing in or the reference image, or just the AI's giving them something that they've went, oh, I really like that, because it's got different render modes on it that are trained on different things. So like one of them is, it's a bit like a Big Hero 6, like the Disney film. Yeah. And if you choose that one, you get a really bespoke narrow thing. Whereas if you choose one of the other models, you can get like a really metallic and formal, and it's almost more of an automotive design. But applying that to, even if it's like a desk tidy, or anything that we're designing in class, it gives them a wee offshoot to go, oh, I hadn't thought of that, and going down a rabbit hole. But they can always jump back. And thinking of the creative process, that's where I've found it's supporting students to open up their mind, as opposed to where they sometimes get fixated on that. I've got this one idea, it's really good, and I just want to do that. Which you're shaking your head because you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's where I confidently with the learners here at New Battle, we can say, well, we'll take that idea and chuck it and see where you go. And I've never had a learner come back yet and say, well, I'm just sticking with my idea, or I'm not changing. They're always like, oh, I've got this, or I've got, and sometimes it's just a little nugget and it's just a little bit, but it really helps them to take that idea forward.
I think that's brilliant. And I know in the creative thinking qualification, iteration failure is part of that process. And very often, as you say, it's the difficult bit in getting them to do it. So thank you. That's fantastic. Okay. Third question. Have you noticed any changes in student engagement or motivation when using AI assisted learning tools?
So I'm going to sound like a record saying the Viscom, but one of the things that, being a teacher for so many years, and I think everyone's heard a learner when they turn around and they use the term, I can't draw. Yeah. And it's as if, when you're doing a creative and a design-based lesson, and the pencil goes down, and the walls go up, and it's I can't draw, and trying to work with the learner to say, well, hold on a minute, it's okay, and you're sitting there with a teacher example that's a gorgeous drawing or whatever, and it's where Bizcom consistently has got that comment's gone now at New Battle, which I know is a broad statement. I see your eyes there go, well,
Yeah.
really? But it's even learners that I know would use that or do use that elsewhere in the building or whatever. It's where it seems to have taken away that barrier. And I think part of it is because like tools like Read and Write for supporting with literacy, or text to speech, and it removes those barriers, is where I've found Viscom removes the barrier of being able to share an idea graphically.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things I think, for whatever reason, after primary school, the learners get that block where they're like, I can't draw and I can't do it. Viscom seems to just allow them to get their idea down. And it's not to say it's perfect all the time. It is where the people sometimes they need a wee bit of help, because the description and the prompt helps massively. And it's where we found the literacy there, and the teaching of literacy and the development of literacy is actually going down the adjectives and the verbs that they're wanting helps to refine their idea. But then a pupil that can't draw, they then go, but I can describe it. And you're saying, that's really, really good. And it's I shared this tool with our primary cluster just last Friday. And I said to them, I said, well, tell me what you want me to draw. So they said, a dog. And I'm not an art teacher. So I was like, well, so I done a stick man dog. And then I was like, boom, right, click the button, and I got a dog. And they were like, oh, now we know what you want. And then I could type, well, I want a particular breed of dog. And it's where, for learners, as soon as they see, and it's where with classes now, I deliberately do poorer drawings when I'm using the AI to make the point that the bar set nice and low here for entry, but the output for sharing an idea is really high. So you don't have to think, I'm not going to be able to articulate or share it with the teacher. The tools supporting you for that. So the engagement in lessons is really, really high. And like I said before, for learners, it's where if they get a chance, they'll go on and they'll use this, or they'll have it open on their screen. And I've seen, even when they're getting further through the design process, and we still work with paper, we're not just a digital school, but learners will have it open just to, like, for reference, or to do a wee bit and then go back to their bit of paper. And I think for that, the support and the crutch there to help them go in. But for learners, the engagement and the acceptable use of it is really, really high. And across the building, we've used it as well in courses like games development, which get a lot of students that like playing video games, but maybe are not the most artistic. And again, with them, it's like, well, I've got an idea for a character. Okay, let's do it. And they can get what looks like a video game character, which they wouldn't have been able to do previously. And they're like, that's it. And that's where the engagement in the room straight away just skyrockets. But I can't think of another way to get rid of I can't draw other than using that AI tool.
And I think, do you know what I think is lovely in what you're talking about is, there are a breed of students who come through and they've been told, well, your maths and your science, and they end up in this silo and they think that they're not creative. And opening up that space for these students to be innovative in that I love that. That's fantastic. Right, we're on to the fourth one. Do you think that the work produced by students with the assistance of AI should be considered their own, and why? A big question, a brave one for you to take on, Andrew. I'm proud of you. Let's hear it.
So for me, I think the important thing with AI is it's a tool, and all of us in our daily lives are using spell check. And a lot of spell checks are actually now getting AI models put into them, but nobody is turning around and saying, well, you're using AI, you're cheating there. And, for emails, how many of us use the quick response email that the AI's read your email and then it's giving you a sensible response? And nobody's saying, well, you're using AI to help you do that. That's unfair. And it's where I think we need to be realistic in our expectations here. And what is our success criteria we're looking at from our learners? If you're marking them on the quality of a graphic that's being produced, then a tool like Viscom, you could argue is cheating or overly assistant, because it is making from your stick drawing of a dog to looking like a real dog. So if your measure of this is what I'm wanting from a learner, then I could see you saying, well, that's maybe unfair to consider that the user's work. But in the same stance, I think if we're looking at the creative process and we're looking for ideas and we're linking it back to a brief and a specification and the demands from a client, well, it still requires the learner to be able to identify, is the AI tool supported and giving you correct evidence or work back to that, or has the AI went down a rabbit hole and you've got something cool but not actually meeting your brief. And that's where, for me, I think it's one of these things where it should be considered the learner's own work, but you have to take it in the context of what it is and what the tool is that they've used. Because, there's, whether it's one of the ones that's creating an image or whether you're using Chat GPT and it's giving them text that then they're going to do the drawing, well, still, is it their idea if Chat GPT came up with the idea? But we wouldn't criticize them for using Pinterest and getting ideas off Pinterest or Google Images. So why are we doing it? So for me, I consider it's their own work. And I think it's because they've had to look at it with that critical eye to say, this is why it's suitable for the task I'm doing. But I think it's where we should be open and honest about it and say this has been used, as opposed where you can be raising that gap of then the ones that know how to use it are using it and getting an unfair advantage, and the ones that don't know aren't getting that support that could actually help them to come up with a really unique and creative idea. Because what we want at the end of the day is learners to be creative and be problem-solving based solutions that can actually make an impact for the better for the whole world. And that's where, if the AI is doing it, yep, give that person credit, definitely.
Brilliant. What a fantastic answer. I mean, you covered, you make me really excited, not just about the future of education in terms of seeing you as a teacher not been brave in this practice, taking on something new. Just as a final kind of short, what would you say to a teacher who's nervous about this environment? So, I know this is an unscripted one, so I'm talking to you from the heart, Andrew, but like, what would you say? I'm a teacher. You look like you know what you're doing. You look like you believe in this, but I'm scared. Where do I start?
So I think for starters, the stance that I would say is look at your network, whether that's your school, your authority, if there's digital leaders, of where's the support. Because the truth is, in education, AI tools are appearing. You can't keep up with them. Like the AI educator website, there's new ones constantly, and there are ones that ethically aren't ideal because they've got biases. There's ones that are not safe in the sense of how it uses the data, so it keeps everything that you're putting into it. So you have to be conscious of, if you're getting it to write a report or something like that, are you putting information out there on the internet? And sometimes the AI models just use that to train itself to get better. But as a practitioner in an educational setting, you have to think about, is that data security risk? So I'd say it's worth linking out there to just see what are other people using, have people looked at the safety of it. Then the other thing is give it a try. Use the AI tool, experiment, because I know there's staff, and I've heard it from colleagues of like, this is going to replace jobs, or we're getting rid of a whole industry here. And I don't like, it's radical. AI is radical, and it's going to change lots of things. But I don't think in the same sense of it's going to get rid of all the creative jobs out there. Definitely not. I think what it's going to do is it's going to streamline and support and open the door to a lot of creative industries that might have been closed previously, because people can access it. And I think for teachers that are feeling nervous, there's lots of stuff getting published. There's university projects. There's obviously Daydream Believers stuff that's going out to support staff as well. And it's where I'd say engage, read, talk to colleagues, start to dabble like you would with any pedagogy. When we've had an educational change and higher order thinking came in, it wasn't like people were like, well, stay away from that. It's like, well, do some reading, speak to colleagues, try it, review it, see how you get on. is the step forward, I think, because it's nervous, but then on the other hand, when I've used it with learners, when you see the positive response you can get from it, you realise it's worth it. It's definitely worth it, and it's helping the learners move forward, but also making it current for them because they know about AI, they're hearing about it, and if we're not talking about it in school, how are we going to prepare them for whatever amazing adventures they go on to once they leave school?
Andrew, what a way to finish it. You know, a teacher that is fundamentally excited about, I've got goosebumps. I just think that, you know, when you hear a teacher talking about an amazing adventure for our young people and your energy and your excitement about that and wanting to equip them for the future, an absolute gift. So listen, thank you so much for giving up your time on a Friday afternoon. I know this will be a gift. And I think that we're going to hear from you a lot more from you, which will be great. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, Andrew. Take care.